And when did things start changing for you?
When I understood why.
Yeah.
You know,
when you...
It was the point of, okay, what do I do? I'm left with myself, and there is no way that I am not getting my children back. There is no way that I'm giving up, and there is no way that I'm going to ignore that voice saying to me, it is now your time. So I thought, okay, I want my children back in my life. I love them. I adore them. But I also know that I need to heal. And I need to understand what love is and feels like within me. So that's when the journey began. And that was July.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. You are listening to Don't Be Afraid to Talk podcast with James. I believe if we are going to affect change, we must go back to the basic, which for me, in essence, is conversations. Talking and listening is key for growth, and I hope our stories will bring us together and we can draw inspiration from each other. Conversation will include topics such as mental and physical health, trauma and its effect, suicidal thoughts, recovery, and well-being. We will continue to raise awareness and offer a different perspective, a mindset or an idea that could inspire you to take charge of your well-being and to grow as a human being. Thank you for joining us today. Today I'm joined by Rowanne, and she's come on to share her story of trauma, addiction, and recovery. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and we hope you can learn something that you can take away from this. Good evening, how are you?
Hello, James. I feel okay. I feel a little bit nervous, and I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, feeling is, I feel the same, so it's okay. It's okay.
We got
this. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Oh, a little bit about myself. Well, I know that I will be sharing my experiences around misunderstanding love, you know, what that feels like, what it looks like, being love. And then the journey of becoming love and knowing what that is within, rather than outside validation or seeking something. So yeah, that's what I'm going to share today.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. Don't worry, I'll be cutting out the pauses.
No, it's absolutely fine. And I don't even know if I'm that happy with that, because I didn't expect you to ask that question. So, yeah, if I was going to tell you something about myself, yeah, it's a bit of a question, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're going to be talking about a lot of things today anyway.
Okay. All right.
So don't worry about it. Okay. Before we get going, we're just going to play short 1-for-1 game. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a word and you say the first one that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Ready? This is the hardest question I'll ask you today.
Okay.
Okay. First one is revelation.
Freedom.
Empowerment.
Love.
Children.
Love.
Dreams.
Clarity.
Butterfly.
Rebirth.
Brilliant. Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Okay. Yeah, that's some hard questions done. So I'm going to, well, okay, I'm just going to.
And how about some questions for you? I'm really joking.
Depends on the question.
Same game, but the other way around.
Do you want to try?
Okay.
Do you have 5 words?
5 words.
Okay. Go. Yeah.
People.
Community.
Faith.
It's all we need.
I like that. Love.
Natural.
Parents.
Education.
Friends.
Everything.
Oh, I like it.
Simple. Oh my God, I was so... Oh, no, I know what it feels like. No, it's not great.
Bit of reverse roles that.
It's not great, but yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm calm now. Okay. I need some water. Second. Okay. You ready to go?
I am ready. Yeah.
There's less pressure on me now because I don't need to talk that much.
Depends how much I talk. You might have to talk a lot. You never know.
Get words out you, I think.
You will. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. So how was growing up for you?
Growing up. Yeah, that I remember fun times. I remember good times. I remember being very connected with nature and enjoying the freedom that I had. And then through changes, I had to be around people that didn't know what healthy love is.
Was that at home or was that outside?
Both. It was both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. I was quite young. I was only 5, and that was when things started happening. When I thought that I felt love for a person, and it was the first experience that I thought was love. And this was a family member. This was a man, and it was very confusing. It was sexual abuse. But at the time, I didn't think it was wrong.
You didn't know.
No, I didn't know. I was so young. I actually thought it was love.
And how was your relationship with your mother?
Both of my parents were present at times, but also were suffering from trauma. So couldn't and didn't have a capacity to show me what real love was, comfort, support. So it was difficult being shown this unhealthy love and thinking it was love, and also with your caregivers there not guiding you, showing you what love is. So it was blinking confusing. It was so confusing. Yeah.
And did you ever share with them what was happening? And or you didn't think there was much to share?
It started when I was 5 and it went on for a very long time. I believed I was in love with this man. I knew because he told me not to say anything, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I didn't want him to get into trouble. So no, I didn't tell my parents, and quite frankly, they didn't. They couldn't. They wouldn't have been able to support me in that.
And around what age did you realise, like, this is not normal?
Wow, there's a few layers to that. So after so many years of thinking that it was right, and a part of me wanting it to happen, I realised maybe at 11, 10, 11, this isn't right. And I think I was about 11 when it stopped. But a huge part of me couldn't face it and didn't feel that it wasn't my fault. It was the shame. So that was quite late on, actually. Yeah.
And was it a shame that you felt that made you think that it was your fault?
Yeah, huge amount of shame. It was me. It was me that was walking in that room sometimes. It was, it was me that was asking it for it to happen sometimes, because I was so confused. I thought this was love. I thought this person loved me. So yeah, to grow up and think, oh my goodness, something was wrong with me. That was me. That was my fault. And that is what held me back from being free from that for quite some time.
Yeah, how that would have shaped your behaviour in school and things like that?
Oh goodness me, I was a very angry child. I was very angry. I would, yeah.
Angry at home and angry at school, just.
Oh yeah. Everywhere, I would project anger. I had no fear of death, and I had no fear of anyone reacting. I think I actually wanted them to. It was a way of self-sabotage and self-harm, kind of daring people and pushing and goading people to fight back.
Was that more of a frustration, or was there a need for something else? Like, were you angry just because you're frustrated with everything?
I think it was a lack of understanding. I was so confused. When you grow up, it's not just the, you caregivers not have the capacity to love. It's everything that goes with that. Why do they not have the capacity to love? What else is being neglected in my development, growing up, from the age of 5 being abused by a family member, and then having no support around that, and not knowing what love was. I just wanted to be loved, and I couldn't feel love or give love.
Yeah.
That was painful, so painful.
And did you obviously mention that you're a very angry child? Did you were you always just looking for trouble, I'm guessing, as a teen?
I didn't know that I was looking for trouble, but when I look back now, I was, at the really young age of when I actually had to go to school, I was fighting boys a lot older than me. I was, I was looking for trouble. I was really naughty at school. I don't know if it was looking for trouble or seeking attention. At that point, I think the attention, any attention, that's someone looking at me, that's someone noticing me. I think, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when did you discover alcohol?
Alcohol was quite later on in my life. I grew up with an alcoholic parent. Well, two alcoholic parents. And I was always quite scared of alcohol because of the way that people are quite volatile. And so drugs were my thing. My first experience of taking drugs was with a parent. And then that was really uncool to do that. So I went on...
Like they invited you in to take drugs with them?
With one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I moved on from doing that with a parent and got into gangs. I was about 13 and I started taking higher class drugs. I remember my friends. I went to school. My friends were at a vending machine buying a chocolate bar, and then there's little Rowanne trying to show off, thinking I'm really cool because I have these acid tabs. And I say to my friends, look what I've got. And they look quite concerned at this point, but I'm once again seeking attention.
Yeah.
And I take this acid tab and so I'm going to take another one. It ended up with me overdosing and I was rushed to hospital from school, waking up in the hospital with my parents next to me. And that was the first overdose. But yeah, 2 years. 2 years later, I was 5 stone and I'd overdosed on heroin and was in hospital for a long time with pneumonia. So at the age of 15, I'd overdosed again, and yeah, it was horrendous.
So after your first experience, as soon as you came out of the hospital, did you straight away go back looking for more drugs?
Oh, for sure.
Or did you have a...
Yeah.
Okay, so even after that experience, you wanted more?
Yeah, do you know what? Taking the acid tab that first time, it gave me this false love. I felt this false love, this courage that I'd never felt before. I'd suppressed so many feelings and emotions, and then I took this drug. I was like, whoa, who am I? And I liked that. Yeah.
You were chasing the feeling.
Chasing the feeling, yeah. And it also gave me this false love that I hadn't experienced before. I saw love in absolutely everyone before I overdosed. It was what I thought back then was a jolly good time, but it obviously wasn't.
And how do you end up with heroin? That's very...
Yeah. I substituted. So basically I went from the acid tabs to ecstasy. I started doing it every day. I was in gangs. Every day was dangerous at that point because when you're keeping up a drug habit, you've got to pay for it. And obviously at that age, 13, 14, 15, you haven't got the money to pay for it. So gradually substituting one drug for another, getting to a place of extreme pain, physical pain, and switching it up to something else. And also you get immune. I've got immune to drugs very quickly because of the amount that I was taking. So it would always go on to the harder stuff because I needed it to be more power,
Yeah. And did anyone at home ever notice what you're doing?
Of course they did. They knew.
And kind of tried.
Yeah, they knew.
And did anyone try to say, this is not a good road to go on?
No, James. I was using with my parent.
Okay. So obviously when you're using at home, that can only escalate. Like that can only get
Well, it just gives you the green light, doesn't it? And that's what it did for me. I thought, well, it's okay. I don't need to hide. They didn't know about the heroin. They only knew about, ecstasy or cocaine or something like that. But yeah, it gave me the green light. I don't need to hide away, and I can go out and do this, this gang stuff and take drugs, and I can also go home and take drugs. So
yeah. At what point did you realize this is not good? Like, after how many years did it take you to realize? What happened that made you think?
Well, I'll be quite honest. Even the first overdose, when I must have been 12, 13, I knew it wasn't good, but I ignored it. When I went down to 5 stone and I had, severe pneumonia, and I was in hospital for quite some time after the overdose, I knew that wasn't good, but I didn't think about stopping drugs. All I thought about was substituting to another drug that won't be so harmful. But obviously that's not the truth, because I was taking it to obliterate myself. I was taking it to get to that place of complete self-sabotage. Why was I doing that? Because I was avoiding, I was avoiding the pain.
Avoiding. Yeah. And so I'm just trying to understand. So what happened that? Sorry, let me start again.
No, good. Just all good.
Yeah, we're back. I'm back on whenever. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. My next question was, okay, so obviously when you're taking drugs at home, you have the green light to do what you want, and you're going outside, you continue doing it. So at what age did you, did you hit rock bottom? At what age did you realize that?
Oh gosh. Like I said,
often when someone's taking on like this kind of behavior, you hit a wall.
Yeah.
And for that 1 second, you think there's another road here.
Oh, James, I hit that blinking wall quite a few times, and I still got back up.
You just kept going.
So I was 12. 9, 17 years I was using for. I overdosed numerous times. I mean, numerous times. So yeah, I hit that wall quite a few times, and I got back up. And like I said, what I do is I physically could not stop the drugs. I had times that I substituted the drugs for other things. So that might be sex, that might be food, that might be money, that might be exercise, that might be, men. It wasn't so much men back when I was, the teenage years, but I tried everything in my power to stop. From 18 upwards. It was not fun anymore. It was the physical, the withdrawals, the flashbacks, the nightmares, it was horrendous. So I felt very trapped, because there wasn't party drugs anymore. It didn't feel like a party anymore. It wasn't fun. It was, okay, you take these drugs, otherwise you're going to have these nightmares, you're going to have these flashbacks, things are going to come back to you, you're going to have these intrusive thoughts, and you're going to feel awful. So I kept going. And it got worse and worse. You know, the flashbacks get worse when I was coming down, and the nightmares were worse. So it was a very vicious cycle that I was in, and I felt very trapped.
And did you meet your partner through this lifestyle?
I did indeed.
Through the drugs?
I did indeed. And obviously I've shared previously of not understanding love, unconditional love, you know, with the child abuse and the parents, and then having this false love of the drugs. So when I met this gentleman, this perfect man, I was absolutely blown away by it, or rather sucked in by his love bombing. So, yeah, it was through drugs. It was, yeah, he was a dealer. And
at the start, did you think like he's gonna give you that need that you're looking for?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That belonging.
Oh, absolutely. What sort of lingo did he come out with? So yeah, straight away, you know, it was love bombing. You're the most beautiful woman in the world. You're too good for me. I love you. Very, very soon into the friendship, whatever it was at the start. Yeah, I just every, you know, everything. I was perfect, and I was completely blown away by it. I thought, oh my goodness, is this love? And I thought it was love. I really did think it was love. And I was so vulnerable when I met him. I was so broken. Yeah. I didn't know what love was. And he really did use that.
So he took advantage of, obviously he had, being a dealer, he had what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And did you end up on that route as well of dealing?
Oh, me?
Or was it just,
gosh, yeah, from a very young age, just because I was fearless and I needed lots of drugs. My drug habit was hundreds and hundreds of pounds a day. So, yeah, I needed to.
And throughout the relationship with him, I'm guessing you thought this was the perfect guy for you.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And how long was the relationship? Was it good?
Wow. He's still part of my life now. Yeah, I met him when I was just turned 20. And I hadn't disclosed the abuse either.
To him?
To anyone. I'd kept that in.
To anyone, okay.
Oh gosh, no, I'd kept that in. You know, yeah, that was a very dark secret for more than 15 years. So I was still it's broken. It's broken. Yeah. So we met when I was 20, and like I said, he love bombed me. I thought he adored me. I thought I was the love of his life. He would tell me this. And he just completely sucked me in. And the closer that I believed and trusted in what he was saying, the closer he was drawing me in terms of space as well. He moved into my house pretty much straight away. And had this control over me that I didn't see. I see it now. But looking back, whoa, wow. And I was in this bubble. I was like, oh, I'm in love. But it wasn't. He absolutely, you know, manipulated me and used me in so many ways. And it wasn't too far into the relationship that it started to change, and there was parts of him that would say, do you think you should wear that? Do you think you should wear that out?
Okay, so his behavior changed after a while.
Yeah.
It became more judgmental.
It was very insidious at the start. I didn't even notice it, because it would just be a little, I don't know if I like what you're wearing today, or I don't think you should do that, or I don't like that about your friend. And I trusted him, I loved him, I believed in him, and I thought we were one, which was so not right, so not true. And they were the steps of him really isolating me from people, from the truth, from reality.
So did he isolated you from everyone else around your life? So it just became like you and him?
Over time, yeah.
As in you became more dependent on him?
Oh gosh, yeah, there was a huge trauma bond. Yeah. He would start to gaslight me, so tell me that I had just would say, you've just texted that person, or you've just spoke to that person. No, I didn't. He said, yes, you did. Or you've just gone down to the shop. And I go, I'm sure I didn't do that. But then after a while of this going in every day, a lot, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I started really believing him. The gaslighting actually took me to a place of insanity, because the more I tried to justify myself, the more power I gave him, the more power he had, the more he wanted to take from me. Like, whoa. Yeah. I didn't see it back then, but I can see it now.
Suppose when you're in that bubble, if you like, and you don't know any better, you would know what, you kind of, you became dependent on him, and slowly he was chipping away at you.
Yeah, I just wanted him to love me the way he made out at the start. I just didn't understand why I'm doing everything wrong. I didn't understand why I'm the one walking on eggshells trying to please a person and never pleasing this person. And in doing so, like I said, losing all sense of self. Yeah. Yeah.
And over time, obviously, his behaviour got worse, and started telling you things you did that you didn't do.
Oh gosh.
But believing it.
Yeah.
Believing that it's true.
Yeah, it like I said, the gaslighting was telling me that I'm doing things and then I'm not. And then I'll share with you an experience that I was downstairs smoking a cigarette, and he started to hit my head against the door really quite vigorously, it was serious. And a person came down into this room and he stopped. And I turned around to this person. I said, "Did you just see what happened? Did you see what he did?" And the abuser dropped to his knees, started crying, saying, "I cannot believe, Rowanne, that you would say that. I love you. You're the love of my life. I would never do that." I looked at the person and had to convince my own family member that he had just been so violent to me, and then he's on the floor crying. I was nearly convinced. I nearly thought, did that actually happen? And that is how insidious and that is how I felt like I was going insane. It really was.
Jesus. Yeah, sorry. I can't even imagine. It sounds like something that you see on TV. Well, for me anyway, it sounds like something that I see on TV and be like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And because you're in that environment that you felt trapped in, did you ever consider leaving, or was it a case of, I can't leave him because this is the only person that I have?
I couldn't leave because you know, the amount of times that I had to justify myself, the amount of times that I was trying to please him. In doing that, I was an empty shell. I didn't feel like I had no self-worth. I couldn't live without him. He made me feel like I was nothing. It made me feel like I can't live without him. And after he would do these things and completely forget and say, no, I didn't do that, after.
So he never owned up to like any of his behaviour?
No, never. No, he would deny it. Yeah.
And okay, so even like what you mentioned earlier on, like even when he does something that's plainly like his fault, he'll deny it and make it out like it's your fault.
He would try to convince me that he didn't do it, and he would cry and tell me how much he loves me, and he'd say, surely you know that I would never do that. And there were parts of me that would think, maybe he didn't. And then I'd stop, I'd stop and say, no, Ro, come on, look at the bruises. Look at the bruises. Remember, that is the truth. So, yeah, leaving him, that was tough because it wasn't just about me. I had 2 children with this man. And I had to protect my children. And I was in survival mode, what felt like forever. I was very hypervigilant. In the day, it would feel like freedom because I would take my kids all over the UK, all over to, different adventure playgrounds, and it would just be amazing. And I'd always go me and my children, whilst he slept off the drugs and the alcohol. And then when I got back, I knew that I would, feed the children, get them to bed, and that would be my night of hell. It would be hell, I knew that I couldn't leave because the children were there. And he'd convinced me that I was a shit mum and I could never look after them on my own. And I was pretty much convinced at that point. So no, I couldn't leave him we were together 8 years.
Yeah. And did he use the children against you?
Yep. Yeah, there was a lot of
the time?
Yeah, there'd be, parental alienation. He would try to turn them against me within them. He would try to, he was awful. He would manipulate the children in thinking things about me that were not true, and scare them, fill them with fear about me. So many different things, weaponizing so many different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever see, sorry, this is off the top. Do you ever see like different types of narcissist people? Narcissist categories?
I have met many people growing up that have narcissistic traits. Are they different people? Yeah, of course they're different people. Are they triggering? Yeah, they're triggering because the people that have these narcissistic traits that I've met in this life, have been quite violent, coercive, and manipulative. So, different people, same actions.
It must be hell to be in that kind of relationship, especially if there's children involved.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful.
Like, did you trust him with the children even?
Oh gosh. No. No, I didn't.
No.
No.
You must have been on flight mode, like, every day.
Yeah, I was hypervigilant. I was right at the end of the relationship for 2 years. I, all of my children's life, I protected them. I did everything I could to protect them. But yes, it got horrendous by the end of the relationship in terms of what he was doing. And I was suffering with complex post-traumatic stress. The symptoms of CPTSD were intense.
Yeah. And what happened that made you realise that I have to get out of this place?
A sequence of events, actually. My children were put in, especially my daughter was put in a really, really awful situation that I just couldn't. I thought she was dying because of something that he did, and then he took it too far. I had a huge black eye, and I couldn't do it anymore. I could not. He would keep me up all night. So I'd go out with the kids in the day, and then he would keep me up all night on purpose, so I'd be absolutely exhausted and vulnerable and weak. And I got to this point where I thought I must tell someone about what he's doing, because everyone thinks that he looked like the nicest guy out there, He's puts on this front, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, you're so lucky to have him." I go, "Yeah, not really."
Yeah,
but,
that's a perfect behavior for a narcissist.
Oh my gosh!
The world will think one thing, but behind closed doors.
Well, exactly that. He would purposely go out and do things for people to look like, the Mr. Nice Guy, the gentleman, and the decent person, and he's very worried about what people think of him. Very different behind closed doors. It was the point when, like I say, it got too much. And I just couldn't live anymore like this. I couldn't protect the children and live like this anymore. I felt a little bit of freedom when we didn't live together. But
was that?
Yeah.
Was that you telling him to move out? That must have been difficult if that's what happened.
Yeah, I did. I did. I used to try and get him outside of the house so many times, and he would. Oh gosh, yeah. He ended up stalking me and doing all sorts of stuff for quite some time after. But not thankfully, because I feel really bad for saying that actually, but he met someone. He was already cheating on me. And that, it's really horrible to say this, but I think his attention went on to another woman. and he started to stop coming to the house at 4 or 5 in the morning, and trying to search the house and things like that.
And when you say stalking you, was it just like following you everywhere, being outside your house randomly, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would try to keep the keys in the inside of the door, because he would get in. He would get into the house somehow at 3 in the morning, on drugs, searching the house for men, searching cupboards for men. And he'd come up and search under the mattresses for a man. And I'd wake up at 3 in the morning to him like this, about 2 inches away from my face, looking into my eyes. I'd wake up and go, it was terrorising. It was awful. And it lasted for quite some time as well. And that, if I'm honest, that played a huge part in me having a catastrophic breakdown. I couldn't cope anymore. I just couldn't. He might have been out of the house, but he wasn't out of my mind. He wasn't. It was insidious.
And do you think, did you ever feel like when you wanted to leave him that if you do leave him, it's going to change?
He had, oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. We got back together quite a few times. And I thought, oh no, okay, yeah, no, he's really changing this time. He hadn't changed. It's like a blink, oh, he's back to normal. And it was, I must admit, it was all those times when he did come back that shown me that he's not going to change.
Okay.
Yeah, it was lessons.
So during the breakup, he became a nicer man.
It was
until things.
Yeah, he went back to his charming self. That apparent charming self. But then, an actor can only act for a certain amount of time, and that act didn't last very long. So it was a lesson.
Then you're back to You're back to square one again. And did you? Sorry, you're going to say something there.
Do you know what? I actually think that I was probably moving forward in terms of acknowledging that he's not going to change. So every time he did come back, it taught me, Rowanne, you've fallen into this trap of believing that he's going to change, but he's not going to change, and you've just learnt this lesson. And that was what taught me, do not have him back. He's not going to change.
But I say a part of you still... Was there a part of you that hoping that he will change?
Yeah.
After so many years together?
Yeah, also the manipulation that he had manipulated, especially my son, and my son didn't want me. It was really, really hard.
Okay, Jesus.
He had left and he was screaming for daddy. He just wants daddy because of the shit that he was feeding the kids in terms of, what they started to believe. Not my daughter, but especially my son. It took me 3 months of oh gosh, so much. So many bedtime stories and so many cuddles and so many deep, meaningful conversations with this little boy that I loved and adored, but he hated me. He hated me because of what his dad had fed him. So yeah, it took some time, but yeah, he came round to seeing and feeling the truth.
Yeah, that's good. And you mentioned that did he lead you to a breakdown? Did you have a breakdown moment?
Oh gosh, yeah, I couldn't cope. Their father had, cheated and moved on with this person that was now using. He was now using this person as a new mum for my kids and wanted to turn the children against me. And if I go back to this understanding love, well, I fought the children's dad I thought that was love. And now I've just learned that's not love. I've learned all of these different unhealthy loves. And then my children, I felt like they didn't love me. I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? Yeah, and I had a catastrophic breakdown. It was huge.
And where did you end up?
Where did I end up? I ended up in a very dangerous situation. I ended up in a situation that was very violent. And without going into it too much, I was actually taken to a place of my body was giving up. I was actually, through the injuries, through the physical trauma, my body was giving up. So a person took me to a nature reserve to pass away, to die. And I remember passing out and I just collapsed and I felt my heart slowly stopping and felt this calm and this peace. It was serene. I mean, it was so light and, all the pain left my body. And I just felt like, wow, gosh, this is a place of love. I'd never felt this before. And I felt myself lift. And what I know now was my soul was lifting from, my body. And I went up into this light. I don't know how long my heart stopped. I wasn't on drugs or anything like that. It was due to the violence and the loss. And yeah, like I said, I remember being up and in this space, in this light, beautiful space, and then hearing this huge voice say to me, now it's your time. Now it's your time. Right, okay. I feel myself come back down, really slowly come back down and come back into my body. And I felt the earth underneath me. I felt my heart start beating again. I opened my eyes and there were hundreds of blue butterflies flying all around me. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have never seen life this bright. I've never seen
this bright,
so bright. Yeah. And feelings and eyes touching my arm and my body, and my voice was different. I'm like, oh my God, I'm breathing. I've been given another chance.
What just happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did anyone else see the butterflies?
Yeah.
But for you, it was just more vibrant. Everything.
Oh my gosh, it was rebirth. I shouldn't have got that. I shouldn't have survived that. If I wasn't saved that day and given another chance of life, I would have died from the injuries, most definitely. Yeah.
And how was when you got back to yourself? How was that for the first couple of days? Was things?
No, I must
looking
admit.
Clearer? Probably not.
No. I must admit. So, 2 days after my children were taken from my care, so social services took my children because of my breakdown, because of what happened. I was then left, just survived death. My children have been taken from me. The only feeling of unconditional love had been taken. My beautiful children. I was then made homeless and left with myself, James. And I think it was at that very point where I thought, shit. Shit. This Wow. There's no more
Yeah.
rock bottom than at that point. I had nothing.
That was like the lowest of the low.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe I wasn't even allowed to talk to my children. You know, I loved them. I adored them. I'd done everything in my power and the power above to protect them and keep them safe. And then because I'd had a catastrophic breakdown and survived death, they were taken from me. And at that time, I didn't really understand why. Now, today, I do understand why.
Yeah, and that's great. And when did things start changing for you?
When I understood why.
Yeah.
You know,
when you...
it was the point of, okay, what do I do? I'm left with myself, and there is no way that I am not getting my children back. There is no way that I'm giving up, and there is no way that I'm going to ignore that voice saying to me, it is now your time. So I thought, okay, I want my children back in my life. I love them. I adore them. But I also know that I need to heal. And I need to understand what love is and feels like within me. So that's when the journey began. And that was July 2018. So that's 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you had to change everything in your life.
Yeah.
Or most things in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to... The biggest thing for me was I had to set boundaries. And I remember I went into very soon after my children were taken from me, I went, right, okay, I know what this is about. I need to heal the trauma. I need to heal all the traumas. And there was something that my counsellor said to me about boundaries, and I responded and went, are you taking the piss out of me? She said, I went, what is a boundary? So
what's that?
Exactly, because I didn't know what boundaries were. There were no boundaries. And I must admit, when I first started setting these boundaries with people that were unhealthy, I felt so uncomfortable. It was unknown. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to jump back to that place of the known, of letting people do what they want. And then realising, becoming aware that actually setting boundaries and easing yourself into that self-love is really helpful to, one, release the shadows within, free up that space so we can have clarity and actually work within without these people taking and harming.
There comes a time when you're trying to do that kind of work that certain people will just have to be maybe not gone, but away from you.
Oh no, completely, James.
Or they'll keep dragging.
Yeah.
They'll keep dragging you back to that energy.
I did. I set boundaries with, I didn't see, many people. I spent a lot of time on my own healing. I went into, trauma therapy. Every week I would turn up, every single week, and whatever I could do in between, I was doing it. I was willing. If you want to heal, you've really got to want to heal. You've got to be willing to put in the work. And I did that. I was pretty courageous in terms of facing the trauma.
And what were some of the things you had to do? Because I think when someone says healing, you kind of think, yeah, I'll do that in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But
the biggest thing for me was avoidance. So obviously I've talked about my using drugs, alcohol, substituting things for drugs, sex, all that sort of stuff. Why was I doing that? Why was I turning outward? Because I needed to avoid the pain within. What I did gently was tuned into the trauma, open it up a little bit, gently does it, trying not to rush the healing, process, come back and regulate. That's what I did for a couple of years before I could do any other healing on top of that, because the process was too healing. Like I said, a beautiful counsellor, worked through the trauma, and then I did some different things like kinesiology, and I retrained as a energy healer or teacher, and that really helped me, because it's not all about guiding others. It's all about self-healing. It is about self-healing. So picking up different techniques and these different, kinesiology and the other stuff was brilliant. And I started a counselling course back in 2019, and I recommend it. I really do recommend it for your own self-healing. The 1, 2 and 3. I mean, it really, really deepens your self-awareness. You learn so much, and it helped me in my own journey of healing. Yeah. And during that time when you decided to live again, when you decided to live again, were you still in contact with your parents? Did they try to come back to your life, or was that? Yeah, they were still in my life. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
It's a compliment.
But you have a different outlook now. Yeah, you have a different outlook now. Yeah.
Like I said, I was very angry because I was trying to push for something that they wasn't capable of giving. But
you understand that now.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
People have their stuff going on within, and sometimes it doesn't mean that they don't love. It just means that they can't show love. And that's okay.
Yeah. And do you think, looking back on it now, like obviously you know a lot more better, with your relationship with your partner, do you think that was a case of two traumatic people coming together and thinking it's love?
We're definitely not together now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not together now. I don't know. I think that the deep insecurities that he has within has caused him to seek power and take power from other people to fill that gap within himself.
And are you still, obviously growing up, you're always looking to be noticed and seen and belong? You obviously don't feel like that anymore, do you?
No. No, I don't. I think it's been a blinking long journey, I must admit, to even believing that I deserve love, and recognising it when people do love. It's been a tough journey, accepting love. But the more I worked on the trauma, the more I released it, the more space I had to receive love and understand it, the more I felt that I deserved to do acts of self-care and self-love, not self-sabotage. There's a journey in all of this, and I believe that the setting boundaries and doing this, the self-care and the self-love, and being able to sit in that, trust it, and feel like you deserve it, that is where the journey began. Because I thought, oh my God, yeah, this feels nice. I do deserve it. I stopped justifying myself. And the more you do these acts of self-love and look after yourself, the better you feel. So, yeah, I grew in...
A ripple effect, like you...
Yeah.
You want to feel good, and just keep going. Yeah.
Like I said, it is a journey. I felt so blinking uncomfortable with trying to do things that were nice for myself, because I didn't feel like I deserved it, and I didn't really know and understand why you do that, because I had never been guided. I've never been guided into why we should feel our own love.
And how does it feel now, your own love towards yourself? Yeah.
It feels, do you know what? I don't have to try to be someone I'm not. I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. I can just speak freely, be myself, be happy with that. I don't have to change the way I talk or act to please someone else. I can just be me. And I'm all right with that.
Yeah, that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah,
because we always try to, unconsciously try and be who we're not.
Yeah,
and it's only when you have some self-awareness that you can see yourself doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What's one of the things you're proud of? So what are you proud of?
The last 3 years of my life.
Yeah. You feel like you've made huge progress to the previous. You're closing the gap.
You think if we go back, July 2018, homeless, without my children, just survived death and nearly being sectioned, to how I feel right now. Only 3 years on, I'm bloody happy with that, yeah.
Yeah, you'll take it, yeah. And then, what does well-being mean to you?
What does well-being?
Yeah, mean to you?
Contentment?
One word?
Yeah.
Yeah, contentment. That's great. And
well-being. Well,
you're obviously helping people.
Do you know what? I bring it back because
Yeah.
if I think of well-being, everything that I do in terms of my own healing, helping my children, helping people, what I do for helping others, it comes from a place of love. So I would say well-being is love.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what sort of stuff you're doing to help people?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I've done quite a lot in the last couple of years, not only for myself and my own healing, but for others. So, yeah, obviously the counselling course. I've been...
Are you counselling others?
No. Do you know what? I'm doing this course for my own healing. And also...
Okay.
Yeah. As much as I did go into this year thinking... maybe, but practicing as a counsellor would limit me from speaking from my heart and allowing source to flow through me, just because of the code of ethics and boundaries, all that sort of stuff. I do understand why they're in place, I really do. But for me, as a healer, it definitely, the counselling course is for my own healing. But yeah, I do. So I work in the drugs and alcohol services in my local town doing, I do like holistic workshops in like women's refuges and rehabs. I also work in a homeless shelter. But my everyday, what I do every day, helping people, is I'm an energy healer. So I specifically work with trauma that is stored within the cells of the body, within the physical body. It's a combination between the knowledge throughout my 20s, the anatomy and physiology and, psychology and neuroscience, combined with my spiritual gifts that being able to tune into energy, see energy, and, energy, emotions signpost to trauma, and being able to tune into that with people, releasing that through the physical body is absolutely fascinating, and it's incredible, absolutely incredible. So that is what I do every day, and it fills my heart with absolute love. It really does.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds amazing. Yeah. No, thank you. Actually, I saw you used to do sports.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah. I did. I used to compete in a few different things. I was a kickboxer for quite some time. I was a sponsored skateboarder for some time, and so I qualified in, I trained in nutrition, and I was a personal trainer and sports massage therapist. This was what I was trying to do to find balance, because I was a ferocious drug addict at the same time as being a vegan, raw Olympic lifter. And I tried to bring this balance, and I must hide that I'm taking all these drugs. And what I'd do is I'd be a nutritionist, and I'd be a personal trainer, and I'd do all these races and compete in many sports. It was an act. I was in it's a shelf life as well. There's only a certain amount that you can act before you tumble down. But yeah.
Your body.
For sure.
Yeah, your body will catch up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I suffered so many different injuries, and luckily for me, I'm able to channel the healing and the energy, so I can release that from my body, like I do with others. So I am free from physical pain. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Just that would have been some balanced weightlifting.
Yeah.
But I bet at the time you felt you're so smart that you can do it.
I did. Yeah, it was power.
Yeah.
And it's the dopamine as well, isn't it? It's the rush. It's the exercise. It's the drugs. It's the drugs. It's the exercise. Power. I walked around thinking I was absolute. Great.
But
I wasn't. Inside, I was a very broken, vulnerable young woman that was just seeking attention.
Yeah, that's great that you've been able to catch up with that pain inside and heal yourself.
Yeah, I don't need to seek attention
and go on
anymore.
to this journey. No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't. So, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
No, that's good. I thank you for this opportunity to be able to connect with you, and thank you for holding the space.
I was doing like box breathing.
Yeah.
Before we started, it's like I need to train to calm down.
A little bit of regulating box breath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. Today I will. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
If you enjoyed today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a quick review on my Facebook page, Don't Be Afraid to Talk, or DM me on Instagram. The show notes will include all of the relevant links from today's episode. If you haven't already, please download, leave a rating, and share with your friends. You might just reach that person who needs to hear this message. Please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. I am James Lumumba, signing off with gratitude.